It smells like rotten cheese. It was sort of love at first sight. Okay guys, so today we're going to be decluttering my concealers. I have a lot in here that I think are really old and crusty and dusty that need to be thrown away, and then just a couple formulas that don't work for me that I can pass along to family and friends. So if you enjoy declutters, definitely keep on watching. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more videos like this, product reviews, tutorials, all that good stuff. And yeah, without further ado, let's just go ahead and get started. One that I know has definitely expired is this Kosas Revealer Concealer. Whenever I look at it, I'm just full with guilt and regret because it's a pricey concealer, but I just literally hardly ever used it because it has a really potent smell of roses. And I should have checked the ingredients before I purchased it because one, I don't like the smell of roses, and two, roses like as an ingredient really irritates my skin, and this, every time I wore it, I would get a blemish the next day, so it did break me out, which is the opposite of what you want a concealer to do. So I'm going to declutter this. I don't know, it's worked for a lot of people. I know there's a lot of hype around it, so it might work for you. It just did not work for me, and it's a shame because it definitely has gone off now. It smells like rotten cheese, so I'm gonna have to toss this one. I also have a bunch of samples of that concealer in different shades. I kept them just in case I needed to do someone else's makeup or I had self-tanner on, but I'm going to toss these as well because they're super old. A concealer I feel like is similar to the Kosas in that it's very hydrating and gives a good amount of coverage is this new concealer from Physicians Formula, their Butter Glow Concealer. However, I think this concealer is 10 times better than the Kosas. It's super thin, and a little bit goes a really long way because I feel like it's pretty pigmented. So you just need the tiniest little dot and it will stretch very far. It doesn't crease excessively and it's very moisturizing on the skin. So I really love this concealer. I feel like it's a really great option from the drugstore. It comes with this little sponge tip, which I never use, but it also has the traditional doe foot. So you can see it's really thin, really creamy. This is light to medium right here. Has a bit more of a pink undertone. And the first one that I swatched was Fair to Light, which is a bit lighter and has a bit more of a yellowy undertone. And you can see it stretches really far. It almost has not a greasy, but like a very almost oily feel. If you have extremely oily skin, I don't know if you would like this concealer because it does feel very emollient. The only bad thing about this concealer is the shade range. The shade range is awful, despicable. I hope Physicians Formula will expand their shade range because everyone should be able to use this formula. I have two of these ultra creamy Shape Tape concealers from Tarte. This one is newer. This one, I don't know if you can tell on camera, but the pigment has started to separate, and I have had it for a couple years now, so I don't feel comfortable putting that on my face, so I'm gonna have to toss this one. But I will keep the newer one because I really do like this formula. I think it's easy to go overboard with this because it's very creamy and it gives a good amount of coverage. Not quite as much as the original Shape Tape, but it's definitely way more hydrating and creamy than the original. Just use a little bit, but it's really pretty on the under eyes and I really enjoy it. So keeping. A newer concealer to my collection is this Future Fluid Concealer from Milk Makeup. I have a love-hate relationship with this. I like it. I think it gives a really good amount of coverage, but I have a sneaking suspicion that it breaks me out. I don't know what it is, but there's something about cleaner makeup brands that always breaks me out for some reason. I don't know for sure if it's this, but I just feel like every time I wear it, I get a blemish the next day. I don't like the packaging because so much product comes off as you're pulling the little doe foot out. And the doe foot itself is so tiny and stiff. It doesn't feel comfortable on the under eyes. The formula itself gives really good coverage. It is pretty creamy. It's just not my favorite, but because it is newer and it was launched, I think it was launched earlier this year, I am going to keep it and mess around with it a little bit more. And that one I have in the shade 5W. This one I'm obviously going to be keeping because it's still in the box. I haven't even opened it yet. I bought this at the same time that I bought the original Born This Way concealer, the more mattifying one, and I have that open right now. It's actually downstairs in my beauty room. So I'm definitely going to keep this, and I'm just going to open it once I kind of run through some of my other concealers because I don't want to have too many open at one time because, as you can see, a lot of things do go bad and I just don't want to be wasteful. So I'm going to keep this and I'll open it up in a couple months or so. Definitely going to be keeping my LYS Triple Fix Full Coverage Brightening Concealer. This is one of my favorite concealers of all time. It's the perfect middle of the road concealer. It's medium coverage, not too light coverage, not too heavy coverage. It's not too thick, it's not too thin, it's not too dewy, it's not too matte. It just works for so many different looks. It's really smoothing on the under eyes and it gives the perfect amount of coverage, and with my dry skin, I don't feel like I have to necessarily set this, so it's perfect for like quick and easy makeup days. So definitely gonna be keeping that one. I actually need to pick up a new one soon because I feel like I've been using this one like crazy and I feel like I'm starting to get to the end of it and I don't want to be without it. One that I like, but that is just pretty light for me right now, is this Radiant Cream Concealer from Neutrogena. This one is super creamy. It's a good formula. I just feel like it's a little bit thicker. So if you like a really thick, creamy concealer, you might like this. It gives good light to medium coverage, and I do like how it looks. This color is just a little bit too brightening, I feel like, on my under eyes, so it's not super flattering for me in my opinion. So I am going to pass this one along to someone with a fairer complexion because it hasn't gone off yet, but I just don't see myself using it very much in the next couple months since we're heading into summer, and I'm probably going to be a bit tanner, so I don't want it to go bad before I can use it again. This is similar to the Neutrogena Radiant Creamy. It's not as thick, but it's still really creamy. This color is just much too dark on me, so I feel like I never really gave it a fair shot. The shade's wrong, that's half the battle. So I am going to pass this one along. I don't think it's expired yet, and I feel like someone would get good use out of it. Two more that I think are expired, my Thrive Buildable Blur HD Creaseless Concealer. I'm sad about these because I actually really did love these when they were in their prime. They give light coverage, but they do look really smoothing on the under eyes, sort of like the LYS, and again, you don't have to set these if you have dry skin, and they stay in place really well and do not crease. So I did love these. I'm sad that I have to let them go, but I've had them for a really long time now, and the last time I used them, I could just tell they weren't performing the same way. So I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of these. An underrated concealer from the drugstore. This is from Makeup Revolution. This is their Eye Bright Illuminating Under Eye Concealer. This is definitely more of a sheer sort of light coverage concealer, which is probably why a lot of people don't talk about it. But I actually love this for everyday makeup, for that no makeup look, because it's practically undetectable on the skin. If you just dot a little bit of this on, you can't even tell that you're wearing makeup, but it gives you enough coverage to be worth it. The cool thing about this is that you can actually see how much product you have left on the side here in this little window, which I think is neat. It has more of a radiant finish, not too glowy to where it's going to emphasize fine lines, and it's not glittery or shimmery at all. I have two shades. Well, actually I have two of the same shade. I have another one somewhere in the shade Fair. This one is the shade Light. I actually purchased a backup, and I'm going to keep the backup, and I'm going to get rid of this one because it's very old, but I have used a lot of it, as you can see, so I definitely got my money's worth out of it. Moving along to a concealer that is the complete opposite. This is very full coverage, satin matte. Definitely a glam concealer. This launched earlier this year. This is the Urban Decay Quickie Concealer. I love this concealer. I feel like even on my dry skin, it's not drying. It's smoothing. It covers what you need it to cover. It looks super good, and for more glam occasions, I do love it. It has that huge doe foot applicator. A little bit goes a long way. And again, with my dry skin, I feel like I don't have to set this. Less drying than Shape Tape in my opinion, but just as much coverage. Another keep is this NYX Bare With Me Concealer Serum. As you can see, I love this concealer formula because I do have 4 different shades depending on my skin tone. I'm going to keep them all because I do like to mix and match. The thing with this concealer is that a little bit goes a very long way. That was my problem when I first tried it out. I was applying way too much and I felt like it just looked really creasy and heavy on my under eyes. Pump out a little bit and then dab your concealer brush into it, or just take your finger and dot a little tiny bit on your under eyes. It's very seamless and very natural, so I definitely love this one. I'm going to be keeping it. Just in case you're interested, I did swatch all of the shades of my NYX Bare With Me concealer. This is Fair, Light, Vanilla, and Beige. Another definite keep is this IRL Filter Finish Concealer from Makeup Revolution. Makeup Revolution just makes some killer concealers in my opinion, and I love this because it's, again, that perfect middle of the road concealer. It's not light coverage, but it's not super heavy coverage. It's not too thin, but it's not too thick. It's not super matte, but it's not super dewy. It's just the perfect middle of the road everyday concealer. You don't have to think too hard about it, and it just always works. So this is definitely one of my favorite concealers, I think, of all time. I'm gonna make that bold statement. I have 2 shades, C1 and C4. I'll go ahead and swatch them for you guys. C1 and C4. Also, the little doe foot is so cute. It looks like a little ballerina slipper or something. One that I feel like I'm not super attached to, but I want to give it another try. This is the Catrice True Skin High Coverage Concealer. I've heard so many people rave about this concealer, and I like it. It's similar to the Makeup Revolution IRL. It's just more drying, I feel. So it can look a little bit too dry on my under eyes personally. So I haven't been reaching for it that much, but I'm going to give it a couple more chances because I feel like, you know, everybody needs their fair shot. And this one, I've only worn it maybe 2 or 3 times. So definitely need to try her out a little bit more before I send her packing. This is the shade 002 Neutral Ivory. And just a side note, this concealer does smell like paint pretty heavily. Okay, one of my first loves, the Maybelline Fit Me concealer. This one is in the shade Vanilla. This was one of the first concealers I ever tried that I actually fell in love with. It was sort of love at first sight. I actually really just got lucky at the drugstore because I hadn't tried that many concealers and I just happened to pick up this one and it just worked really, really well. It never creases. It looks super natural, really flattering and smoothing on the under eyes. It doesn't give the most amount of coverage, but I think for every day it's really nice. I haven't been giving this one that much love just because there's some others that have replaced her, but I'm going to keep it because it's just super nostalgic and I just feel like I always need to have a Maybelline Fit Me in my collection. The last little concealer color corrector-y thing in here is this from Charlotte Tilbury. This is the color corrector. The packaging just makes me feel like I belong in a Broadway dressing room. I don't know. It makes me feel super fancy dancy. I feel like it might be a little bit too dark on my skin to brighten the way that I would want it to. I don't know if you can really see it. It has that nice peachy undertone which does color correct, and the consistency is super thin, lightweight, blends easily. It's a beautiful formula. Just the color is just a tiny bit dark for me, but I did purchase this and it's been a while, but I am determined not to let this go to waste. I've been holding on to it for so long because it's Charlotte Tilbury, the packaging. I'm actually going to pass this along to my mother-in-law because I think she would really like it. And I think it's easy enough for her to use, and she is a little bit tanner than I am. She doesn't wear a lot of makeup, but this might be something that she can just tap on really quickly on an everyday basis, and I think she would really enjoy it. So I'm going to pass this along to her. Okay, so these are all the concealers I'm going to be decluttering. If they are expired, I'm going to have to throw them away. I'll recycle what I can. And if they are not expired, I'm going to be passing them along to someone that will love them and give them the love and adoration we all deserve. So I'm going to be decluttering 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8. And these are all the concealers I'm going to be keeping. Are you in the frame? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. And I do think I have 2 more downstairs. My original Born This Way and my Sephora Best Skin Ever. I think I am going to declutter the Best Skin Ever, so we'll add that to the declutter tally. And I'm going to keep the original Born This Way. So I think we did pretty good. I feel like everything that I have, I love, and I'm going to be happy to have in my collection and to be using. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me go ahead and put these back in their little home before we sign off here. There we have it. I feel much better about this, and yeah, this was so much fun. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I think next I'm gonna do blushes. I still have to go through my foundations, my highlighters, my primers. So definitely subscribe to see more of my declutters. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Love you. Bye.